Yes, you can still get the college girls. I told you guys before, I'll tell you again. If you stay in shape, you get pussy for life. Now, let me tell you some advanced techniques to get the college girls. So, for one thing, you're going to have to, and this doesn't matter if you're 25, if you're 27, if you're 30, if you're 35, if you're 40, if you're 42, you're still going to be able to get the college girls for a number of different reasons. First and foremost, a lot of times they like older guys. That's just kind of in general. They feel like that they're more mature, whether they are or not, is to be seen with each individual girl. But they always think that they're more mature than the guys their age, typically. So they tend to gravitate towards guys at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than them. Now, it's when you get in these bigger stretches, 7, 8, 9, 10 years plus, that kind of brings in like a different element. But if you can take the age situation out of the equation and just base off of attractiveness and basically your in-person game, then that in itself doesn't become as big of a barrier. So there's been statistics that have been done, and actually in the last few years, since so many relationships are starting through stuff like Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, those kind of things, and online mechanisms, people are actually getting married to people closer to their age now than they were even 10, 15, 20 years ago. And a lot of that kind of comes from their own isolation in their own mind, because they think, well, I want someone close to my age or something like that. They're going to be at the same point in life, these kind of things, which can be true and cannot be true. And for what they're looking for and what they're looking to do, it could, either be a good thing or a bad thing. It just kind of depends, but every individual person is going to be different. I've met 21-year-old girls who were just completely ditzy, didn't, have two brain cells in their head. I don't know. And they just were very, very immature. And then I've met 21-year-old girls who are actually like extremely mature and were more mature than I've seen chicks who are 30. So it just depends on the person. It depends on their upbringing. Depends on their life experiences up to that point. So how do you get the college girls? There's a number of ways. So obviously you have to be in a city where there is a college, and you've got to kind of be either interwoven in kind of like some of the places where they're going to go, whether it's bars or it's the gym or it's those kind of things. Or you have to be in proximity to them to where if you connect with them on Instagram, that you're going to be able to meet up or start this dialogue with them. And I understand why you're thinking that you can't get with them. You might even be 25, 26, 27 and feel like, man, like now that I'm out of college, I'm not on campus, I'm not there, I'm not in class with them and stuff. But a very low percentage of marriages are actually like happening from people who meet in college. And I have my own theories on that. That's a totally different video. But the main kind of colleges where people are meeting and getting married are actually these small Christian colleges, but they're getting married for the wrong reasons, just to have sex, because they've been told, like, if you have sex before you're married, then you're going to go to hell. And so they get married for the wrong reason. They have sex with this person, figure out that's not the right person for them. Sex wasn't that great with that person, and they end up getting divorced. And a lot of these small universities have had 70 to 75% divorce rates for these people who met at those Christian colleges and get divorced. It's actually higher than the national averages. So let's talk about the bigger universities: University of Texas, University of Arizona, go Wildcats, ASU, UCLA, SMU and Dallas. So obviously in these bigger metropolitan areas, you have a convergence of the regular population and the college students. In Tucson, you have University of Arizona. In Tempe, Arizona, around the Phoenix area, you have Arizona State University. In Los Angeles, you have UCLA, USC, so on and so forth. Austin obviously has University of Texas, and Dallas has SMU, Southern Methodist University, but I don't think it's very religious there. But anyway, so you have this convergence of the college, college girls and the normal population and stuff. So For one, you have an advantage that, let's say you're not in that social circle, in the fact that a lot of times they kind of, especially early on, they want to keep things kind of like a secret from their friends and stuff, because they don't want to be judged by their friends, for better, for worse. And deep down, a lot of these girls know that their friends actually aren't there for their best interest. Now, they might have a very, very close friend that they might confide in and say, what do you think about this guy? And then if their friend's like, oh, he's hot, then it's kind of like confirmation to them. But oftentimes, if they do ask their female friends for advice, that female friend will be jealous and actually derail them. Let's think about the bar scene. A lot of times you have these girls who are derailing any kind of attempt to pick up these girls and talk to them, even to get phone numbers, contact information, Instagram, that kind of thing. And they're cock blocking because they're jealous. They didn't get approached, their friend got approached, and that's obviously why we have the wingman. But that's another video in itself, how to effectively utilize wingman. We will talk a little bit about that in this video. So if you integrate yourself somehow close to campus or within the realm of campus. So when I lived in Tucson, I lived like 6 miles off of campus. This was perfect because then I was closer to campus at various times, depending. And so, you could obviously be on Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, all that kind of stuff, and then you would match with these girls. Now, you might not match with someone if you fall outside of where they put their age range. They might be like 5-mile radius, 10-mile radius, like really tight radius, and very close to their age. So let's say she's 21. She might only put her thing up to 24, 25. If you fall outside of that, you might not match her. One thing I've done to mitigate this at different points where it's like, ooh, this girl is hot. She's on Instagram, because I can see their Instagram was connected, but you cannot see their Instagram handle. I would actually screenshot the picture that was on Bumble or Tinder or that kind of thing, and then figure, okay, if I do a Google reverse image search on this, I will find out what her Instagram is, because it'll find it online, and then I can add her on Instagram and then hit her up through Instagram. And I've done that a few times. So, and then whatever, you might just, see some picture where she was in the desert and she hashtag something. I'd just be like, if she's like, well, how'd you find my Instagram or something? You might even just say like, oh, I was just like, I clicked on a hashtag or something for like the hike to Seven Falls or something, whatever. And then, but anyway, once you're past that, then it's, you're golden and stuff, and you're trying to meet up with her and stuff like that. So, and if she thinks you're hot and they don't really know how old you are, that's all that really kind of matters. Like, they're interested and stuff. So then if the age thing goes up, I wouldn't lie to them. Like if they ask you, you could just say your regular age. If you want to lie, whatever. I mean, it's your choice or whatever. But you might as well just say it. And then if they act like that, maybe you're too old for them, then say, maybe you're too young and immature for me. And they'd be like, no, I'm really mature for my age. Qualify them. If they're trying to like qualify you, you put it back on them. Make them qualify themselves. Maybe you're not mature enough. So there's that. If you meet them cold approach, like out at the bars or something like that, the same situation could occur. You're obviously going to have the friends potentially coming in the cock block. If you got a wingman, that can help. Now, let's say you're like, man, I can't get a wingman because I've gotten too old or something like that. All my friends are married or they moved away or whatever. Here's one of the things I did, and I did this in Tucson. So I was just out at the bars. Don't be afraid to make friends with guys. Let's say you see some guys, you start talking to them, you're kind of BSing around, and, you kind of figure out what their story is or something. Like this one dude I ran into, he was out. It was the night was winding down. Things kind of seemed like they fell through for him and were kind of falling through for me. But then I started talking to these girls, and then I was able to kind of pull him into the frame, and he started talking and stuff like that. And we just quickly, just real quick, just kind of act like, hey, let's act like we know each other kind of thing. And then we kept going with everything. So I actually got us kind of set up. And it turned out he was on the football team at University of Arizona. So I was like, that's perfect. And this guy was black, and then I'm white. So this can work out very, very well. And I learned this in college, actually, because one of my friends, he said this, I thought it was funny at the time. He's like, hey man, like, we got to roll to this party. He's like, we got to be wingmen because, you know, these girls, they just think I'm like a black dude who's on the prowl. And I just like laugh, like, okay. And then, but I saw that actually there was some truth to that. That it was like, we were able to kind of like counterbalance each other in the fact that it was like, okay, we're both athletic, you know, both guys go to Purdue, and it's kind of like, you kind of act like, you know, whether you've been friends for a long time or not, you can kind of just BS the story. Me and this dude on the Arizona football team, we kind of BS the story that was like, yeah, we're involved in real estate, you know, so it kind of gave a little bit of a tie-in. And then when there were pool parties and stuff, like in Tucson, that was mainly like college girls, he would invite me to the pool party, and I would come over, and then that was kind of the tie-in. So it actually made me seem like I was like younger and kind of in that set, and I was in shape, you know, all that kind of stuff. Still am. Gotta stay in shape, guys. Get pussy for life. So anyway, like, it kind of pulled me into that. So the girls didn't really know, you know, how old I was, and then it was just like, it kind of pulled him up and made him look like he was more mature and had other things going on just besides school, like he was involved in real estate, all this kind of stuff. So it actually like worked out really, really well, and that was like a good wingman scenario. And then again, you know, getting on Instagram, I think that Instagram and Snapchat, and originally I was like, Snapchat, it's just so, I don't understand why people are so into that. It just seems so childish and stuff. And in some respects it is, but here's the thing that you have to understand about Instagram and Snapchat. So with Instagram, obviously they can look at just your profile in general, and they can see like, oh, you've been to all these different places, you're working out, you know, you're traveling, you're with other people, you're having fun and stuff like that. And so it gives them just an overview. Just within 5 minutes, they can kind of figure something out about you and kind of figure like, okay, he's real. This profile's been around for a while. He's been to all these different places. And so I don't have to say, hey, look, when I went to Australia, you know, look at this, look at me dunking a basketball or something. Like, look at me lifting this weight. Like, you don't have to try to show off to that one girl. It's like they can look through it, and it's like, boom, okay. Like, they've got an opinion formed of you. Then, through Instagram stories and through Snapchat stories, whenever you're going somewhere, you're doing something cool and everything, you do the story, and then you see these girls, like, following you, and watching your stories. You get to a point where you're talking to 15, 20 girls actually through that vicariously. They're like watching your stories, and you're actually working game on all of them all at one time with a shotgun approach like that. And if they're following every one of your stories, hey, if they weren't into you, they wouldn't be watching you. They wouldn't be following your stuff. So that kind of gives you obviously like a clue. So if you haven't fallen out of that, and maybe you're not on Instagram, or you're just like, man, I'm really kind of off social media or something like that, Instagram and Snapchat honestly are very, very crucial to kind of tying you back into that. Another thing too is, so at University of Arizona is the rec, and you could go, like, even if you didn't have a pass to the rec, you didn't go to the University of Arizona, you could pay to get into the rec to play basketball or whatever. So I would go over there and play basketball. And actually, that would kind of put me in. And then say there was like girls, you could walk into like the weight room, and then you could cold approach. Cold approach in a gym is kind of tough. Also, there was an LA Fitness kind of closer to campus that a lot of college students would go to. College students, and then like 1 or 2 years out kind of thing. So you had a younger subset there closer to the campus that you could tap into. And then obviously, like, you know, Tucson is like 4th Ave, there's downtown. So the college students are getting intermeshed with, you know, the general population and stuff there. So you've got to put yourself in a situation where you're in and around, you know, those girls. And then with rebuttals, you got to get good with rebuttals. If they ask you, how old are you? Then be like, how old do you think I am? And then they'll be like, you know, they're sitting there trying to guess. And then whatever they say, it doesn't matter if they say 26, or they say 28, or they say 33, or 35, or whatever they say. It doesn't even matter. You just be like, what? You know, and keep them guessing, because they'll think like, wait, did I guess too low? Did I guess too high? Like, and then just keep going, and then maybe like get off on another subject if you can, to be like, you know, if they're like, you didn't tell me how old you were, and then just be like, say something. One time I used this line, and I actually, like, this was like a drop the mic line. I was actually really proud of myself. This chick just kept on it, and I was like, well, I'm old enough to not be a fuck boy, but I'm young enough to have your attention. She was just like, ooh. And it was like, and I came up with that, like, kind of on the spot kind of thing, and it kind of got me out of a situation. She's like, okay, fair enough. So, and it was true. She, I had her attention and stuff, so it kind of didn't matter. But that is obviously the biggest worry. Like, guys feel like they're out of that environment because these college campuses are so, they're like their own little communities and stuff. But I'll tell you what, a lot, even like the athletes at a university like that, a lot of times, like, you might have a girl on the track team, but she really doesn't want to date a guy on the track team because there's so much, like, they travel together. They're essentially on the same team, like men's and women's track team, and it almost becomes kind of a high school situation where they're like, well, if I'm dating that guy, like, what are people going to think? Or what if we break up? It's kind of like having a girlfriend at a job. People get really worried about that, like, oh, don't date people at work. It's that same thing on these athletic teams, and even if they're on a different team, it could be like a volleyball player and a guy on the track team or something, but a lot of times they don't want to date because they're in the training room together. They're all like, I don't know. It gets weird. And so you'd be surprised some of these girls that end up, they're actually kind of looking outside, not only just outside of like athletics, but outside of the campus altogether, like someone who's maybe, just in the general population. Also, obviously this background picture, whatever, that's Lake Havasu. I've been to Lake Havasu a couple times. College spring break, super cool place, a lot of fun. And obviously, like, in a situation like that, you're intermeshed with college population, like partying and stuff. And then, where else? Even clear over, even when I went to Thailand, like, it's like you got college girls, you have people from different countries, like Europe and Canada. And it's more common for, young women who are like college age, whatever, 20, 21, 22, 23, to travel overseas and do a lot more traveling than American girls. So you can meet these college-age girls that are, from a European country, Australia, Canada, wherever, and not really kind of like solidify yourself into that college environment. So that's the video. You guys can still get college girls. And, obviously if you expand it out, there's obviously going to be, if you get in that 18 or 20 year age difference where, let's say girl's 20 and let's say you're 40, then it's kind of like, it might be one of those things that she wants to experience it. She thinks it's hot. She thinks you're attractive. She thinks you look mature, and all that. And it might be kind of something that doesn't end up being a long-term thing, but it's just kind of more for fun, maybe during the summer, or something. But, maybe it does turn into a regular relationship for 3, 4, 5 years, and ends up being kind of an interesting dynamic for a while, and it kind of makes her feel like she's hanging out with someone more mature. She's able to experience different things, and then you're able to feel more youthful, and obviously be able to hold your chest up and chin up and be like, yup. So anyway, guys, that's the video. Have you guys had more success with college girls once you got out of college, or did you have more success when you were in college? Leave a comment below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you guys later.